A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back once again to HJN Season 4, where we got more stuff to cover here. One of which in particular, for number 2640, is going to be talking specifically about free will. So I get the feeling some people are going to want me to talk about this subject as a whole, and so that's what we're going to do here. Free will, as most would explain it, refers to the ideology that people of all sorts, regardless of who they are, regardless of their background, regardless of their capabilities, can do various things without being forced into doing so. Certain things in life that could in fact impede their ability to make these sort of conscientious decisions on their own terms, including the likes of certain issues that go on. Like in one's household, there is the idea of conservatorships, in which that sometimes a certain person may not be able to do any of these sort of free will decisions, whether it's a legal obligation or whatnot. And this typically is involved whenever there's something criminal that takes place. And I'll admit, I've had my own share of conservatorships, but I've busted free. I now have my own home, as you can see here. This is just one of a number of rooms that I'm known to be in whenever I make my videos. There is, of course, the idea of free will interconnecting with moral responsibility, in which that somebody can make a conscientious decision, whether it's considered to be good or bad. But that's the main thing about it. The idea of morality, in this instance, applying to free will, is mainly connected to the feelings that if somebody is able to have control over themselves in life, to have self-esteem in their own life, and of course to have all the things they need with them. They need to have themselves a good roof over their heads, they need to have a good amount of clothes, they need to have a good amount of care and attention towards their own health, safety, and whatnot. And whenever a lot of these things are met, if not everything is met, then that typically is a good indicator that someone is responsible enough to take on certain things in life. Such responsibilities that people might have, including having pets or children, or even establishing a stable relationship with a certain someone by any means. And while I myself, due to having ASD, I might not be able to do every possible thing out there, at least without a few notable slip-ups. Some questionable decisions I've made over the years, and possibly some dangerous ones at the same time, have been able to eventually drag to the point where some things have now been etched. Let's just say, I've had a record based on my driving. And while there's been a notable amount of instances in which I've had pullovers by patrol units, many times this was actually the result of certain mechanical failures. Remember when I had a Nissan Juke? Well, electrical problems, especially in the Generation 1 Juke model, have especially been common. And I will say, 3 pullovers I made since 2022. And all those times, it was because light malfunctions, 2 headlamps and a tail lamp, up until the point which I eventually had to trade it in for a better car, because all these pullovers I've had really goes to show it probably wasn't the best decision. So I was fortunate to basically sell it off, so that way I can get a hold of a better car. But regardless of what all that stuff is, and regardless of what my own life entails to this particular subject, it's a good reason for me to talk free will as a whole. Is that the idea that I myself have had the capabilities, articulation, and skill sets to pay the bills every month? The fact is that this house has been prepaid, mortgage paid off and everything. It's just the idea that now I'm the one who's living in it, and the owner of the property. So some might think that it's a weird shortcut, when normally homeowning has to do with me paying off the bill to this house as a whole. But think about it. This is the same house in which that I used to live in prior to moving out of state. for a while. And then having to move back to Wisconsin because financial difficulties and expenses getting way too high within a short amount of time basically forced me out of that state in the Northwest. Yeah. It was notable enough to have apples, grapes, and potatoes, but Oregon only kept me around for so long. I will sure miss that state. It was a fantastic piece of my life while it lasted. But anyways, though, I was more than glad to talk a bit about free will, and that's having my own life tied together to this subject, as well as some of my own unique introspectives. They at least allowed for me to talk about my own personal self as a whole. And I'm sure that with other subjects down the line, I might have other things to say as well. So we'll probably have to keep a lookout for other subjects in which that I might have a few things of my own to say. But for now, though, we're going to be sticking to the usual stuff. The usual of subjects. The agendas in particular, or itineraries, surrounding subjects will of course be to explain what they are, how they connect with our everyday lives, how they're meant to be. So, for that in mind, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side for more.